What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be talking about the Bitcoin price chart and the altcoin market, continuing on what we were talking about last week with the developments of price action happening overnight, with the altcoin market falling about $20 billion and Bitcoin dropping about $500. Now, we were actually talking about this last week, talking about the XRP price chart and saying that we would be somewhere like right here should the altcoin market be in accumulation. For a little reminder, here's a clip from Friday for those in the XRP community who were here during the 22.5 cent days back in 2020. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back up to wave 4, 6, and 7 means puts you somewhere around right here. Should we be at the completion of this? Compare these side to side, kind of get an idea of where we would be should that be the case. So, should accumulation continue in here? Probably want to see this level hold, if not down here near about $447 billion, heading back down all the way to the lows once again would actually be a little bit nerve-wracking. But should we be in a ranging accumulation, this would actually just be a total washing machine for a little while. So if I had my best guess would be that it's probably still going to go down a little bit lower, but it's playing with fire to guess on these short-term time frames. It's almost stupid. I consider it stupid because I'm going to get it wrong more than I'll get it right. The reality is, if this is a large range, we're trying to guess how price is going to act within a range, and ranges by definition are chaotic. But for something that we have seen before, a move back down into these price levels down in here, just shy of $450 billion for the altcoin market, would be something we have seen before. Then I'd certainly want to see that level hold and start seeing the range get more mature. As for Bitcoin, conceptually the same idea, either this level hold or it has a little bit further down to go. Now, I've been spending less time on Bitcoin because we spent the last several months talking about Bitcoin, presenting all the cases for Bitcoin to have found its bottom. Should that not hold, the picture for Bitcoin gets very unclear, as Bitcoin is not following along with similar structures or indicator behavior of what has happened with previous bottoms. So my mindset for Bitcoin going into it is that it seems likely a bounce will come out of it at some point. However, getting anything above $40,000 is not in my expectations. I get it. That upsets a lot of people. Everybody to each their own, right? There's all the people who have wanted the $12,000 to $14,000 price range. Congratulations, you're getting that. For me, if that were to have happened, it would have broken all of the bullish cases for Bitcoin. So right now, my current thesis on Bitcoin is if it is somehow able to maintain some type of bounce, the $40,000 price level is going to be the big worry for me. Since the picture is not very clear on Bitcoin, I'm not spending too much time on it. The picture is still clear over here on the altcoin market. It did follow along with what we've been talking about with Wyckoff accumulation. It has maintained those lows. It has done what appears to be a spring, which is what it did back in 2019 and 20. So for that, this is where my interest is focused on right now, is with the altcoin market. This move down that happened overnight was quick. It was aggressive, but we did talk about it last week. I said last Friday, I forgot it was Thanksgiving week. It was Wednesday. We're talking about being in here, as I showed in the video just a moment ago. An aggressive move back down for additional accumulation in these levels is normal. Should we take out the lows? Things don't get normal anymore. Things start getting very, very sketchy. But so far, things are fine. This is where we were talking about just before we'd kind of reach up and hit our peak and then pull back down. Whether or not this level holds or it's got further to go, that's up for debate in the range. But what we can see is when these things turn around in each direction in this range, it's aggressive both ways. So whenever it turns, whenever it moves, it seems to go quickly. You can look back in here and see how fast it moved up. Look in here, how fast it goes down, how fast it goes up, how fast it goes down, how fast it goes up. Every big move is happening fast. So this behavior is not unusual for how this range has been behaving so far. And should it turn back up, I'd expect it's probably going to be very similar. Even if it happens from here, whoop, right back up. So I can try to guess how the price will behave within this range all we want. Likely, it's going to play out differently. What I wouldn't want to see is for us to break down and get back to the bottom of the range. That would be concerning. But the thing I am waiting for is however the chaos will play out right in here and then scooting back up to the top of the range. And then it probably still has to keep waddling along. So the price area of interest for me is really just getting back to the top of the range. Then I kind of start getting fearful again and saying, hey, look, I see excitement's probably returning back to the market right now. Just understand this is probably a range. But should we move down lower still? My fear zone doesn't get triggered as long as we are within here. This is not a fear zone for me. It's more of just chaotic range behavior in here. until we get to the top of the range, a little bit over 500 billion for the altcoin market. Then I'll start being worried again. And then if we actually get all the way back to the literal bottom of the range, we could get way back down here to 450, 445. No worries in there. Should we get back down to 435, then I'll start saying, yeah, that's not good. Because of structures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we should be holding that. We should not be setting another new low after that. This should technically be the actual bottom that was set here on November 22nd. So definitely some wild action to start the week after a holiday weekend, but nothing out of the norm of what we were talking about last week in regards to ranges. Speaking of ranges, it has finally happened. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has reached back to the 702 Fibonacci retracement level. September and October were no fun talking about this happening. Dozens of tweets every day, dozens of comments every day saying this will not happen until a Fed pivot happens. Well, we've gotten here. I posted over here on Twitter last night. I am officially on Great Depression alert for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We have reached the 702 retracement. So what does that mean? That means if we look at price action from the first week of January all the way until October, a total of 10 months of downward price action, we have retraced 70% of the entire fall all year in the last 40-something days. Now, I've tried to stick with my thoughts on just staring at charts, right? Every narrative has been spit at me when it comes from Russia and Ukraine, inflation, Federal Reserve interest rates, whether they've got a pivot, all that stuff, saying this stuff can't happen because of all of these narratives. I had to try to ignore all those narratives, and those can be very difficult to happen, especially in my position, because you almost, you think to yourself, is it the right thing to do? Is it the right thing to just be focusing on these charts and saying this is the things that typically happen, regardless of what the narrative is? And that's why I've been bringing up magical unicorn fairy dust, simulation god, all that kind of stuff, because still in the end, even with every narrative out there, somehow these things do still tend to play out. Bitcoin has been an entirely different animal. It has played a completely different game over these last months in 2022. But as we can see, the entire move down for the Dow Jones was reclaimed back to the 702 retracement in under 45 days. Nearly 200 days of downtrending, less than 45 days back to the 702. So for all the critics out there who spent months posting every day, I hope you could see it. It's not me here to sit here and gloat and say, ha, I was right. It's merely to say, I understand your arguments on all those fundamental narratives, but somehow, some way, these charts still tend to do what they're going to do. And here we are back at the 702. I've posted, I'm officially on Great Depression alert for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We've reached the 702 retracement. I posted the second newsletter for the Blockchain Backer Substack Premium newsletter over here. Also includes an 18-minute audio voiceover where I personally read the newsletter. There's a link in the description of this video, or you can find it over here on my Twitter. And we essentially go into talking about this because now we have finally gotten back here. And we'll see if the 702 ends up being the thing that does hold it down. I've shown many different charts where it does. We know for Bitcoin back in 2018, it was the thing that held it down before it eventually turned over and kept going. That was also the case for Ethereum. That was also the case for Bitcoin back in 2021 when Elon Musk went on Saturday Night Live on May 8th. 702 retracement, turns over and crumbles. That was also the case for gold back in 1980 as it goes back to the 702 retracement, turns over, long bear market. Even somehow, some way, when we measure the Dow Jones Industrial Average in silver rather than in US dollars, we could see it actually crumbled on itself from 2001 till 2011, retraced with a pinpoint nail back to the 702 back in 2018, and since has not been able to reclaim. So it's certainly an interesting price level to be back at the 702. This is not a pre-built in number. Obviously, I've pointed to all the things on where this has occurred throughout history on lots of different charts and implemented the 702 into my Fibonacci's. Technically, it's not a number that's actually included in there. You actually have the 618 and the 786 Fibonacci retracement, which is what most people look at. I do add the 702 myself by going to style and then down in here, adding 702 myself. 702 is not just a magical number I made up. It is simply the halfway point between 786 and 618. 702 is the dead middle of both of them. The interesting thing about the price action of the Dow Jones Industrial Average is that it has gotten back here in essentially a straight line. Typically in bubble tops, the price behavior will be back to the 618, a fall back down, and then a move to the 702. Question is, are we going to see an ABC come out of here? Are we going to see something played differently? I'm not going to sit here and play the game of saying I'm going to pick how the structure is going to happen in here. We're back at the 702. It's ultimate danger here for the Dow Jones Industrial Average while we are here. We'll see how it plays out. There are certain times in markets where I get fearful. This is always it. Most traders will get fearful at the bottom. I always sit there, and you guys know it because you get frustrated with me. I say, hey, retraces are typical. You know, what's going to happen? You know, we typically bounce up. We have some type of retracement. Well, guess what? The Dow Jones has had it. Now it's here. Now it's a fearful moment. Now it's the moment where it says, what is the long-term trajectory of the Dow Jones Industrial Average? Is it going to get rejected in these retracement levels? And is this thing going to turn over and do everything that we've been talking about in here, where this is the final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. We've now gone into retracement. We've hit the 702 retracement. And boom, it's lights out. Great Depression time for the Dow Jones. That is where we are at as we sit here at these retracement levels, that these are potentially the best prices we will ever see for the Dow Jones ever again for the next 20 or 30 years. Down here, I was optimistic, right? You guys were frustrated with it. A lot of you, not everybody. Some people are like, oh, thank gosh, blockchain backer can see that. Optimism. But not here. Here, it's now worry. We have spent months talking about this moment right here. Difference is there's no ABC in here. However, it's back at the actual retracement level. So will it ABC? I don't know. But I do know we are there. We were there. From a price perspective, it has done everything before what comes next. The only differences in here is ABC. There's no ABC. So is that going to be a trick that gets played in here where this is maybe an A, B, and C takes you to 786? Maybe so. I'm not willing to play that game. I'm going to sit here and say, look at it. It's at the 702. Danger, danger, danger. So then the question comes, well, what about crypto? If the Dow Jones does top out here, what's going to happen with the cryptocurrency market? We've gone through this in high detail that in order for Bitcoin to ever set a new all-time high, the condition has always been that the Dow Jones is setting a new all-time high at the same time. People will argue the 4-year cycle halving theory. However, the correlation to when the Dow Jones breaks out of a multi-year range is significantly more correlated with Bitcoin breaking out into a new all-time high after a significant drawdown. I've gone into massive detail on this. I've written newsletters on this, that those correlations are incredibly high, much higher than the 4-year cycle halving theory. But when we look at the altcoin market and we look at what happened with the Dow Jones, the thing is, the altcoin market is still holding this low currently. Could the Dow play around up here for a while first before going? Sure. Just because we touched it doesn't mean it's got to turn back down in a straight line and head back down. Could it? Of course it could. But does it mean it has to? No, absolutely not. But clearly, the element missing in here is the element we did get here. And look how fast it happened in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So my thought process heading into this moment here is that when we get back into retracement levels in here, should we get back into retracement levels, it'll be another danger, danger, danger moment for the altcoin market as well, which, like we just talked about with Bitcoin, same story there. But I do get it. We're all frustrated. We're all beat up. This price hasn't moved up, and we just keep getting hit with catalysts, right? So we still don't know if Contagion is going to run rampant through the cryptocurrency market even more. But what was amazing to see happen over here in the Dow Jones is it only took 43 days for this to actually happen. For the full 702 retracement to come in, 43 days. Just like the crypto market, downtrending all year long, comes off the lows, hits the 702 in 43 days. So while I am supposed to be scared of Contagion, while I am supposed to be scared of a lot of different things and a lot of different narratives, and I totally get it, and maybe those things end up being right, on this channel, we spend all of our time looking at charts. We talk about some of the news when the news is extreme, but most of the time we're looking at the charts. And so while we do have negative action happening here in the cryptocurrency market, we have very negative news narratives and contagion worries. And I even saw TXMC post over here last night on Twitter that the CME Bitcoin futures currently are trading at a 2% disparity to spot in what is undoubtedly its deepest sustained discount in history. It has been trying to claw back parity ever since the FTX collapse took out the floor. Even CME futures are trading at a discount to Bitcoin's spot price. Definitely some wacky stuff in the market. But this structure still holds here for the altcoin market. Still looks like Wyckoff accumulation. So long as the lows are holding, I'll stick with that. And I do know, because we just witnessed it, those retracements can come back very quickly. Who is the winners? Who is the losers? That'll be the big question at the time. Does the stock market start behaving differently? Does it get through the 702 at that time? We'll watch it as it comes. But if you need some hope, you need some optimism to see how fast these retracements can happen. One of the largest indexes in the world goes and reclaims 70% of the entire fall in 43 days. So I still remain optimistic on crypto. Retraces typically happen. Fingers crossed, that's what we do have coming down the pike for the cryptocurrency market. The biggest things are that we hold the current lows that we're at right now for the altcoin market. That's the big thing. Should those break, we'll start looking at a different story happening over there. But as we're still holding it, I'm going to stick with that mindset. But I do want to sit here and kind of have like a somber talk really fast about the Dow Jones Industrial Average, because I know that so many people have 401ks, so many people get complacent. So many people think things will return to normal. And I am not going to tell you what to do with your 401k. I never tell you guys when to buy and when to sell. But I hope people are having serious discussions with their financial advisors about their long-term retirement accounts right here. I don't know if this structure will play out. But if it does, and we all witnessed it, it bounced exactly where it was supposed to bounce at. If this structure continues to play out, the Dow Jones is on a trajectory to lose nearly 90%. That could take decades to play out. In the 1920s and 30s, it only took 3 years. If it plays anything out like the structure of Ethereum, which it is matched very similarly, it would take 10 or 20 years for something like that to play out. And I am not going to tell you what the right decision to do here is. These are charts like we're talking about. There's fundamental narratives. There's all different kinds of stuff. Are the printers going to get turned back on? Is the Fed going to pivot? Is that going to send this thing higher? Those are answers we don't know. We're mixing in modern monetary theory with an actual chart. And so you need to utilize all those things in your own bag to figure out what's right for you. But if this is true, and if the moment we're at right here for the Dow Jones is right there, if that is true, we're going to see millions of people get their retirement accounts wiped out. You know, crypto, it's a revolutionary technology. It's the most volatile market in the world. If you're new to this market, the volatility is probably crazy to you. I'm getting very close to being in this market for 6 years. I've seen a lot of crazy volatility in here. But when it comes to people's retirement accounts, they're used to things being slow and steady to the upside. And when it comes to me, like issuing any warnings, it's hard to do it. It's hard to pick literal tops of where the actual top is going to be and issue the warning there. You do it at that time. People are screaming at you that you're a fudster and you're wrong. You say, hey, the thing's going to bounce. People are telling you, no, it's not going to bounce. We get back to the retracement levels. This is always my warning. This is always this is the danger zone. This is where things are very scary. This is where things can go very, very wrong. Pretty much the signature of my channel is a 702 retracement. And there's a very good reason for that. And we obviously in 2022, for the new people, haven't seen big retracements come in the cryptocurrency market. So you haven't seen that implemented much in 2022. It has been just straight line down. But the people here in 2019, 2020, 2021, every time we were range bound, we get back to that 702 retracement. We get rejected by it. Then we try to go back and break through it and say, hey, we're going to crack through it. And we crack through it and boom, the prices just skyrocket. But in this particular type of structure that we see here on the screen, the 702 is the official rejection level, or at least the region is. And so I'm not going to have these kind of like somber talks of like gloom and doom and sadness. But man, I hope, dear God, I hope people are having serious discussions with their financial advisors about their retirement accounts here. And that'll be the end of that. So back to crypto, turning back on the positive vibes. Maybe this is our rotation moment of the stock market to crypto. I get it. Fear is really bad out there right now. Hey, that's how all bottoms are. Always marked with extreme fear. It's just what we saw in the stock market 2 months ago. The current thing I'm watching for right now is, does this level hold? And if not, one more shuffle down and then a reversion back to the top of the range. with how quick things are playing out, we could get all that to happen within just a couple of days. So we've had every narrative of why prices have to go down. One of the big talks of why prices have to go down is because inflation is still running out rampant. I posted about this on Twitter yesterday. Oil sets another new low. At one point today, oil had the lowest price of 2022. Looking at gasoline futures, we're at almost the lowest prices of 2022. We're going all the way back to January at this point. If we're able to get below $2.20 right in here, we will be back into 2021 pricing for gasoline futures. So another low getting set over here for gasoline, for oil. The inflation narrative seems to be slayed. For those who have used inflation as a narrative on why the crypto market needs to go down, that does seem to be slayed at this point. If it's now just about hopping to what the next narrative is to suit the sentiment, well, then, that's a different thing altogether. So if you need something to be optimistic about, something to be positive about, hey, structurally, we're okay here in the altcoin market, and the inflation narrative does seem to be slayed. So this is what I'm watching for the next day or two. We've played out like we talked about last Wednesday. We're in here. So long as we hold, all is well in the world of crypto for now, in my view. But I hope this is a good lesson so people can understand how my mind works when I come to my YouTube channel. With crypto, we're low. We haven't had a retracement happen in the market. It is highly unusual to not have some type of relief bounce to draw back in excitement again and get retail investors to buy the top again. It's highly unusual to not have that. So as we're low, as we're deep down, I'm optimistic for a retracement to come back in the market. That's exactly how I was here in the stock market and in the Dow Jones. But when prices get back up and we get back to those retracements, and after prices have gone up substantially, I flip on the worried person. So in crypto, we're still way down here. So I'm optimistic in there. But with the Dow Jones, we're back up. So I'm worried up in here. But it gives you a perspective of how my mind works. Because for those who have come along just in 2022, we've watched it have been like, come on, where's the retrace at? Come on, where's the bounce at? But once that bounce comes and once that retrace gets hit, then it's back to, And as we can see, they can happen fast. We can do 200 days of down and then a month and a half of up. And then boom, we're right back to being all worried all over again. So just kind of keeping that in mind of that's how my mind works when I come onto the YouTube channel. And I bring this same thought process with the crypto market right now. We're still way down in here. I'm optimistic for a bounce to come in, a retracement to come in the cryptocurrency market. Who will be the big winner of that? Will it be Ethereum? Will it be XRP? Will it be the broader crypto market? We'll find out. Will one coin steal the show or will the whole group move together? That'll be the thing we find out. But when we get back into the retracements of the altcoin market, should we end up getting it, I will have this exact same tone come when that moment happens. But just like as you saw here with the Dow Jones, just like with the stock market, when we're way down there, I'm like, hey, it doesn't feel like it, but a bounce feels like it's going to come. As it comes, as we get back, then the worry comes. We haven't had that in crypto, but should we get it? Should we go back into retracement levels? I'll exhibit the same behavior in here. But until then, hey, there's an element missing on this chart, and it's that. And then after that comes the big question on who's right and who's wrong. Will crypto follow the stock market, or will it be the whole broader markets crumble, we move on to a new economy, we move on to a different asset class? That's where all that stuff can get answered and the world can decide that for itself. But in here, this is where I become a worrier. Down in here is where I am an optimist. So, all right. Crazy start to the week after holiday break. The Dow Jones has hit the 702. Big moment in markets right now. We'll see how the altcoin market reacts here in these levels, if it has one more dip to do and if it can hold that level and then head back to the top of the range. Otherwise, I'll be available over here on Twitter throughout most of the day. I should be here throughout the whole week. Be a busy week. Like I mentioned, I did add the second newsletter for November yesterday evening talking about the Dow Jones. There's a link in the description of this video to that. Otherwise, I hope that you guys have a great week. I'll be here throughout the whole week, so we'll stay on top of it all. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.